It was just as you would have expected and as he would have wanted. Muhammad Ali's farewell today. He was greeted by crowds lining the streets, his body carried in a black limousine through the streets of his past in Louisville, Kentucky. They were throwing flowers and chanting his name, some running alongside for segments of the journey. But how do you remember Muhammad Ali? A gentleman struggling with Parkinson's, or the younger, grittier, angrier political campaigner? We saw some of that persona in his interview with Michael Parkinson after that most famous boxing match in history, the Rumble in the Jungle.
Muhammad Ali.
The interview is a glimpse into Ali the performer and Ali the person.
Like I told George, I said, okay, sucker, I'm backing up in the ropes, and I want you to take your best shots. And I just stood there. Come on, show me something. Show me something, kid. You're not doing nothing. You're just a girl. Look at you. You ain't got nothing. Come on, sucker. Show me something. Show me something, sucker.
At times, he runs rings round Parkinson.
Why do you fight people who are quite obviously not in your class?
For example, who?
Well, let me put an even better question to you. Do you mean?
See him get off of that?
No. I mean,
oh, well, let me put it another way.
But not all of the interview was conducted in good humor.
Man, how you gonna trap me? You a white man, and your knowledge ain't nothing to a Muslim. How you gonna get me on the TV and trap me? Ain't no way. You can't beat me physically nor mentally. You are really a joke. I'm serious. This is a joke.
And during the at times fraught interview, Ali makes controversial statements about race and integration. This is when the topic moved on to miniskirts.
What man wouldn't want his woman covered up? He can go to work knowing that she ain't somewhere flirting. Some man chasing down the street for a behind part. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing.
No.
So there's something wrong with that, though, showing it all.
I don't think there's anything
you
wrong with it at all.
You don't think there's wrong with it?
No, not at all.
You don't? No.
Not at all.
That's because you're white.
That's
because your nature's not righteous.
No,
listen,
it's not because I'm white and you're black. I mean, that's nonsense, and you know
your nature is not righteous.
Boxer, showman, controversialist, the radical campaigner, and by the time he died, a national treasure. One man who was all these things. Well, joining me now is Chuck D, a member of the hip-hop group Public Enemy. And thanks for joining us. And do you feel that perhaps the more radical past of Muhammad Ali has been forgotten this week at all? People like Donald Trump bemoaning his passing, and I just wonder whether you think somehow there's something of him that's been lost.
Well, if you can actually not talk about racism for a few days, that's truly Muhammad resting at peace. But then the reality of it is still exists, and especially in the United States of America, where you guys over at the BBC and in the UK are totally shaking your heads on what's going on over there. It's sort of like a monstrosity in politics and the presidential quest going on in the United States. So Muhammad Ali in all walks of life allowed us to speak and rage against such ridiculousness.
Yeah, I mean, the anger and the expressions he used then, a lot of the language you'd say is racism or inverse racism when he talked about whites in very generalizing terms. Do you think anyone could do that now, even someone who felt there was injustice? Is that kind of language, that kind of behavior, is that acceptable today?
Racism changes, you know, it changes in shape, it changes in regions, it changes its complexions in a lot of different ways. So you should speak out when you feel like something is unjust out there, favoring one over another. Somebody that feels that their face is being stepped on by some foot should be able to bark out and say, this is wrong. So the answer to racism, when it's felt like radiation, I don't think anything's wrong with that. So there's a lot of different ways that racism exists than it did 40 years ago. Muhammad Ali, speaking in the 60s and the 70s, took advantage of that voice and just spoke out, and people were like, oh my God, you know. When I actually did it in the 1980s, being a musician or artist and entertainer, especially in rap music, they thought it was shocking. But, you know, we learn from Muhammad Ali is that you have to be able to be beyond yourself if you see that there's some injustice going on. Use your platform. And it wasn't just a national voice. It was seeing things that were unfair around the planet.
Yeah.
One race, one sharing of the world, and that's the way it should be. And when it's not that way, why not speak out?
Yeah. And how far do you think America's come from his day? Okay, so let's call it, what percentage of the issues that were facing him have now been resolved? It's clearly there are still problems, but how far?
21st century, it doesn't exist in the same way it did, but new things have popped up. When you look online, you see some of the same people, or you see a lot of people using the same language that people used 60 years ago, and they say, well, it's cool because it's socially accepted, but it was racially derogatory. That's a seed of a problem. When you see people running for the presidency of the United States and they talk about groupings of people like they're lesser or inferior, that's a problem. And that guy got a public platform. Or you see the racism behind closed doors. So we as artists, entertainers, and athletes, we learn from a Muhammad Ali in the 1960s to come and speak out against that. We even could go further back to the Harry Belafontes and to the Paul Robesons and the Miriam Makibas to actually, transcend ourselves, because, you're the few that can actually take advantage of the opportunity to speak for the many.
Chuck D, nice to talk to you. All too brief. Thanks very much indeed. And that